What does hope mean to you? Is it taking that extra step or just standing up? Is it running that extra mile or just walking down the stairs? Everyone defines hope differently, but at Surgenix, we want you to ask for more. We're giving hope back to patients by pioneering the next generation of medicine. Leveraging unprecedented quality, safety, and value, our products represent our vision that treatment can be different, that it can rekindle hope. Every member of our staff is dedicated to the vision that hope can be more than a dream for tomorrow, but with passion and commitment, can be something we can pioneer today. Welcome to Surgenix, where hope isn't a concept, it's a reality.
Welcome back. You're listening to Need to Read, the place for reading for fun, profit, and understanding in the development of habitual critical thinking. On this show, we talk about over the last couple of years, or close to a couple of years now, I've been on the air. I've been talking about the same things: the need to learn how to read and really hone that skill so you can understand what words mean and how words are used to deceive sometimes, even, because that's really important. And we were talking about right now. We were just talking about a little bit of the neighborhood where the people are well off, and it seems like that translates into a bit of racial majorities, white majority with a small amount of other races mixed in because of the economic level. I wonder how many of those people that live out there are Asian.
Not that often.
I don't in Anthem.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't even know. I mean,
usually the only time I think I've met like an exchange student once.
Well, Asians are a real small minority of the population here in the U.S. So you would, and they do tend, like most races do. Most people marry within their race, and they move within their racial circles.
So boring, though. Why don't you mix it up a little?
Well, I agree with that, and that's why I've been talking. What do you guys think about this? Now, I think that officer who lost his life on the highway that night could have been saved if they, instead of trying to wrestle him to the ground and letting him get a hold of the guy's gun and shoot him, if they had just deployed a net on him, one of these, like I was saying, or some kind of, where they have that stuff where you could, or if they had tased him and they knocked him down that way, or if they had shot banana peel on the ground. It's that gooey stuff that when you can't even stand on it. You can't stand up because it's so slippery you can't balance yourself. So that kind of stuff, really should be done so that we don't have people being killed over them being mentally incompetent or caught. In this case, it was a police officer who was killed somehow because the guy got his gun and shot him and another police officer, another DPS officer, who happens to be okay, but the rookie guy, he died. And so, what about, that lady that was coming at the cops with a big knife or something, so they shot her dead?
Yeah, well, that's what happens. You don't go up to people and basically make threats like that, because you can, especially in Arizona, you can get shot here. You can get shot.
Yeah,
here. And I love that thing. I love that about Arizona, is that we can own a gun, and I just don't see any kind of martial law taking over, because we're pretty well off.
You're not going to stand up against the United States military.
Oh, well, you know what? I'd rather do that than just let myself be taken over.
You know what? You're almost the wrong color to be a homegrown militia. Aren't there just a bunch of skinhead white people that do that?
No, actually, that's one thing. That is one thing in my life. I've always actually wanted to start a militia in the future.
I thought you were going to say you wanted to be a skinhead.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Shave it off, son. Shave it off. Yeah. Well, it's all independent-minded people don't want to be ruled, and there are, and you get a little bit out in the weeds, out in the ozone there, by thinking that the reason we really need guns is to ward off an oppressive government, but you never know how things could go. And that's one thing for sure. There would be a real big armed citizenry. People here are armed, and so it wouldn't be that easy to overrun this country with a regular army, except for the fact that You know, the guns that we own are no match for military guns.
Well,
that is true.
Your guns won't do anything against white phosphorus. That will burn you.
Well, right, and also the body armor and stuff like that, and so it's kind of a myth that we would be able to. But once again, most of the reason that we should be allowed to be armed is that we need to protect ourselves, especially women. And if I was a woman, I would be armed. Let me tell you, I would not go anywhere without my little gun, you know, stuck in my panties or wherever, you know, stuck in your little shoulder holster, or little, you know, waist holster or ankle holster.
Or, you know, tape it to your leg.
Whatever the deal is, but, you know, as women being so vulnerable to the aggressiveness of some males, you know.
Yeah, it's actually true. Like, honestly, the way that some men actually, like, you know, hit women, it's not cool at all. It's kind of.
So what do you think about this statement that, you know, if they would have been listening to me and did what I said, these officers would be alive because they would have had those tools.
I don't think a banana peel gun probably would have helped.
But the net would have helped.
I mean, it's an idea.
The net thing deployed out of a little canister, and it goes out 50 feet and drops over him, right? Drops over him like this, and then it closes up, and then as it's closing, it says, "You are under arrest. Do not resist. You may harm yourself." And then we could also, of course, electrify it so that if he struggled too much, the net would just automatically tase him out.
I think it'd be kind of tricky because I know if you feel like you're being wrongfully arrested, you are allowed to resist arrest. If you feel like you're being
no, you're not.
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
You're not allowed to.
Absolutely not.
Any kind of wrongful.
Listen,
'cause that's happened.
Have you ever been in jail?
Actually, one time I've been in jail.
Okay, so and you were in the next day or even a few hours afterwards, you were able to come before a judge, right?
Yeah.
And state your case.
Yeah.
And that's the law right there. You weren't beaten, were you?
No.
You weren't extorted?
Well, no, but if a cop is, projecting his idea of what the law is or saying I'm breaking the law when I'm not, and he's trying to arrest me or harassing me, you are legally allowed as a citizen to resist that.
It has to be an extreme case.
There's rare cases of it because they'll always find something.
I don't see how it could apply.
In Arizona, it's always an extreme case. People have
always an extreme.
Yeah, like in Arizona, they've pointed out that Mesa police officers aren't always like.
I'm telling you, in Glendale, in the past,
in Glendale,
because once again they were small towns outside of Phoenix, trying to live up to kind of what Phoenix, and so the cops. And that's the thing about, I support policemen and I support law enforcement, but you cannot deny that there are some cops who get off on the machoism of being in power and having the gun and pushing people around and ordering them around. They get off of it and therefore they're going to abuse that. And that's why we should have citizen over.
It's the American way. It's just dominance over everything.
The American way.
The American way.
How is that the American way?
You can't say we're trying to dominate the world right now.
No, we're not, and that's the problem. That's the problem. We should have already conquered the world. We should have conquered the world and set the people free.
But then we'd be controlling them.
Yeah.
No, we wouldn't be. Are you controlled? Do you have the right? If you got arrested and went to jail, right? And then I tell you what, I know all about doing that, right? But what happened to you? You got to see a judge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Why did you get to see a judge? Not because, you have some forceful.
Because they wanted to waste taxpayers' money.
No, because there's a law that says you must. See, our Constitution defines the power of the government very limitedly.
He is right.
And that's why we have freedom. Where in other countries, the governments can do whatever they want. In this country, if the government official starts doing things that are wrong, they're going to get charged and they're going to go to jail. They're going to get scandalized and kicked out of office. If a police officer abuses his power, he could go to jail.
But they usually don't.
No, not necessarily.
That's my problem with it, is they usually don't.
Well, they're usually not disciplined for some of their excesses. That's true. But they are kept in check by the procedures and the exposure of it. And many of them, after they're exposed as being abusers, they either quit or they go through retraining and stuff like that. But yeah, there's some of them that get away with abusive actions. But I would say not too many. I would say thank God for the cops, because if they weren't for the cops, you would have to be, posting guards at your front door every night, Every 4 hours someone would have to, relieve me, I need to get some sleep. You gotta post a guard because the gangs are running the streets.
That's true. It is it's kind of true.
Oh, I mean, Mexican mafia's in Arizona the most. So.
Well, there's the Russian mafia, and there's some vicious people. Yeah, the Russian mafia is very, very prominent here in this country. And so.
What about the 3-6 mafia?
I don't know exactly who that is.
They're pretty good.
Right. Well,
did you just make that up on the spot?
You just make it up. Probably did just make it up.
No, that's it.
Okay, so anyway, we're going to go back to this. You're saying America is like trying to push everybody around, and I'm saying no, that's not. They're not doing that. Then that's the problem. We should have already pushed everybody around and told every single government in the world that you have to have the same respect for people's rights as we have in this country. In other words, no matter where you are, if you get arrested, the cops have to have a warrant, they have to have probable cause, and you get to call your mom or your lawyer, and you get to see a judge.
But what countries don't allow you to do, what first world countries don't allow you to do that currently?
Well, actually that's a good question, because Britain has some very stiff laws about what you're allowed to do, and so do the rest of the only real true free country where you can actually get a lawyer is the United States and some of the Western European places and Australia. But all the rest of the places, their laws are so convoluted that you may or may not get a real fair trial.
Well, that's not true, because we got our bill of rights from looking over the English Bill of Rights and their previous history and a bunch of other laws.
That's true.
They have the same sort of justice system as we do.
That's true. You can get a pretty fair deal in most of your Western European countries in what is termed the first world or the pre-world. Nevertheless, if you study with the recent history, you'll find that England has become more and more socialist and more government oppressive than it ever was in the past. I mean, we had the Magna Carta came from England. That was the first step toward taking away from the king the power to do anything he wanted.
Well, it's not going to be more oppressive because they have an entire, I can't say it, but they have their own government.
Folks, we're going to go off for another break, and when we come back, we're going to pursue that, because I find that very interesting, and I need to get your young